Hey, welcome everybody. This is Ferdy Burke, the host of A New Way to Think. And tonight we have on the famous and a good friend of mine, Scott Carley. Scott, say hi.
Hey, thank you, Ferdy. Yeah, it's great to be here.
And Scott, correct me if I'm wrong, Scott, but you really kind of tagged yourself as a motivational speaker that focuses on priority management and referral networking. Did I get that right?
That is exactly correct.
Okay, and so for our listeners that are people that are on tonight, can we give them a website real quick that we can direct them to before we start your questions tonight?
You bet. You can either just go to scottcarley.com. That'll take you to my website. Or you can type in growthdynamic.com. Either one of those will take you to my website, and they will show you about my keynote speaking topics, as well as my referral networking training and my time management, priority management training as well.
And Scott, I'm so excited to have you on the show tonight. And I say show, I'm used to saying that. Let's call it what it is, teleconference webinar. I'm really excited about asking you some questions. But tonight we're going to talk about, with Scott, niche referral marketing, networking. And Scott is an expert in this arena. So Scott, you've come up with some questions that you wanted me to specifically ask you. So let's get started. When you say networking, what does that mean?
That's a really great question. So there are some people who are really familiar with networking, and there are others that it's brand new to them. But networking is making connections out in the marketplace that turn into relationships which foster business referrals. So when we use that term networking, some people would call that prospecting. But you're out there, you're making connections, you're meeting people, but you're doing that strategically. Some people do it at random. We train you to do it strategically so that you're going to events that are, there are some events around town that are just networking events. There's one going on tonight, as a matter of fact, in Austin. Just a great cluster of people getting together for the purpose so that business professionals can make connections with other business professionals. Hopefully, some of those connections will turn into relationships where there's some professional chemistry. You actually like the person that you meet. There's some professional chemistry about the kind of work that you do, the kind of work that they do. And you build that relationship, and it eventually fosters business referrals. And referrals represent when somebody needs your products and services, and you shake a hand, you sign a contract, somebody makes some money. So when we talk about networking, that's it in a nutshell. That's what when we say networking, that's what we're talking about.
And Scott, within that question, it sounds like networking, it has a real purpose then, correct?
Absolutely. One of the things that we say, just showing up isn't networking. So you may go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting and, eat the chicken and meet a lot of people, but that doesn't mean you've networked that event. It just means that you showed up for a lunch and had their chicken. But networking is strategic.
Yes, and the neat thing is, as we get into some of these questions, I think people are going to get a good gist for that. So, all right, so who would get the most out of learning the skill, and why, and what would be the result of that?
So the people that should be most interested in networking, there's probably three in particular. Number one are small business owners or business owners. Because typically somebody went into business because they had a product or a service that the marketplace needed. And so now they got to figure out how to get it to the marketplace. And they may use all types of marketing, but networking is the face-to-face marketing that a business owner, small business owner, would use. So included within that would be sales professionals. And sales professionals that are, there are kinds of sales professionals, but a sales professional that really wants to build a reputation and grow his or her sales quotas is going to network. They're going to learn to network. They're going to be very strategic about it, where they network. I talked to a gentleman the other day, and he said, I want to tell you, he was bragging. He said, I've got a pipeline full of connections. He said, there's not a day of the week goes by that somebody doesn't call me about my product or service. Now,
Wow.
that's a professional that's a salesperson who knows the value of having made connections and building relationships that turn into those referral calls. So that's it. The third one are introverts. And, I say this a lot because one of the things that I found is that introverts make some of the best networkers. You may think that how could an introvert be good at going to a meeting and having to connect with a bunch of people? That sounds like an oxymoron.
It sure does.
Yeah, well, in some ways it's true. But the point of that is that outgoing people depend on their personality. And they come into the life of the party, everybody knows them, and so they rely on that. But networking includes a lot more than that. So I found that some of my introverts are my best networkers because they're willing to learn the trades, the secrets, and the moves of being a good networker and put those into practice. And when they do, their confidence level begins to soar, and their effectiveness begins to soar, and their sales go up. So I work with a lot of introverts who have committed themselves to be good networkers. Now, you're not an introvert, are you?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah.
But I like to learn.
That's right. That's right.
I mean, if what you're saying is you like that introvert side of it, Scott, because they're coachable in the sense that they're willing to learn a skill and not come in with a prejudgment of how they're supposed to act, correct?
That's spot on, I mean, they recognize that they need help. So they're coachable.
Right.
They're willing to pay attention, and they're scared to death. And so
but they follow the system, that strategic system you're talking about.
That's right. That's right. They learn the steps, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And once they learn the steps, they get out there and, man, I love it. I love to stand back and watch them just take over a place with their networking skill set.
Speaking of the story, I've seen you in some network groups where I've known you've worked with somebody and they got up for the first time and did that. When we're going to talk about the elevator pitch a little bit, where they've gotten up and I've seen your eyes kind of glisten and you get a little glow about you because you're seeing the progress of the work, right?
Oh, yeah. Even right now I'm thinking about a lady who came to me and, she's just a great lady. She's very passionate about her business and her product, but she just doesn't know how to talk. She just doesn't know how to have an elevator pitch. And she and I met for a couple of sessions, and I remember the last meeting that we were in together, she stood up, and in 45 seconds, she gave an 8-point elevator pitch, and everybody was in attention, and everybody knew exactly who her target market was, what her product was, a pain and a solution. I mean, she just captured our attention for the first time ever that I've heard her speak in probably 2.5, 3 years. I was so proud of her, and people commented to me about how well she did. I love that. That makes me glow.
And that's going to lead me to my next question with you is, why are you so passionate about networking? What makes you tick with that, Scott?
Well, that's a good question, and I guess, Curdy, I know what it feels like to be the outsider. I know what it feels like to go into a place, not know anybody, feel overwhelmed that I've got to make a sale or I've got to make a connection, and just not know how to do it. Just clueless, scared to death, intimidated, feeling overwhelmed, and looking at around the room and thinking, oh, where is an exit? I got to get out of here. I know that feeling. I know that feeling. And so there's a lot of salespeople, a lot of business owners who feel the same way. They'd rather have a root canal than go to a Chamber of Commerce meeting or to a mixer or some other type of networking, social mixing event. And because of that, I just have a passion to give them the 1, 2, 3 steps, just the mechanics of learning how to network and how to connect with people, who to look for, what to look for, how to do those introductory remarks. I just have a passion to help them sell what's burning in their heart. And when I see it happen, man, it's tremendous joy for me because I know what it feels like. I know what it feels like to have something burning inside but not be able to articulate it and get it out.
And I don't think there's anybody, Scott, that's, because generally humans are shy, right, that doesn't have a problem with walking into a crowded room, not knowing anybody and feeling some intimidation, correct? I mean, that just seems to go with who we are, correct?
Yeah, it does. It's really a rare situation that somebody is so extroverted that nothing intimidates them. I'll tell you a quick story.
Okay.
Ivan Meisner, who is the founder of an organization called BNI, Business Network International, Ivan Meisner is responsible for 6,000 networking chapters around the world. For 30 years, he's been teaching professionals in 60 countries how to network. And a few months ago, he was in Austin at one of our big training seminars, and he asked me to introduce him around to our group. We had about 300 members who had come in for some training, and so I was taking him table to table and introducing him to our members, people who know him, love him, trust him, like him. And so I took him to, 7 or 8 tables, and then somebody came up and said, "Hey, Scott, we need you out front." And so I turned to this man and I said, "Dr. Meisner, I've got to go out front. Can you take it from here?" And he looked at me and gulped real big and said, "Uh-huh." And so I took off, and, he finished up. Later, when he was on the stage speaking, he told that story. And he said, when Scott looked at me and said, "Hey, I need to take off and take care of some business out front. Can you handle it from here?" He said, my introvert nervousness spiked. And he said, I became a situational introvert. I took a big gulp, and my heart rate went up. The father of modern networking is a situational introvert. The best of the best.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, it is. So the point is that we all have to learn some skills to be a good networker. And once you know those skills, you know that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, those steps, those moves, then you can rely on those instead of your personality or your skill.
And Scott, that's crazy. And I'm telling you, I don't care who you are. I know from experience, just like you said, that I don't care how good your personality is. When you get to a large group of people and you don't know a single person, you tend to get really quiet and tend to not be yourself, right? So I get that. That's normal. And Scott's program, which we'll talk about at the end, can really help you folks with that. So, Scott, that leads me to this. So you've always said that when somebody shows up, that's not networking. Can you go into a little bit deeper explanation what you mean by that? Because you are a network group, right?
Yeah, that's right. So that's kind of one of the tongue-in-cheek things that we say a lot to prospects and just networkers. Just showing up isn't networking. And think about it, Ernie. Of course, I know you've never done this, but just think about it. Your boss says, "Hey, you went to that chamber. How'd it go?" "Hey, man, it was great. Well, we just had a great time." Then they had some, good rubbery chicken, and I ate that chicken and met a lot of people and
got a lot of cards.
What's really going on is he just showed up. She just showed up. She ate lunch. Yeah. She met some people, but that's not networking. And so what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is when you show up, you need a goal. Why am I here? Who do I want to meet? I love it. Tonight, right now, Austin is in South Austin at one of our networking events. And I can guarantee you that what he's doing is he's going from person to person, and he's saying, who can I introduce you to? Who can I help you meet? Because he knows that just showing up and hanging out is not networking. We're not there. This is what we say. It's not net eating. It's not net sitting. It's not net hanging out. It's networking. I'm there. Any time I go to an event, I'm there to meet 10 people and set 2 appointments. So if I haven't met 10 people, brand new people, and set 2 appointments, I don't feel like I've networked that event.
And Scott, those appointments you set with that networking should be more of they're going to lead to part of what you talk about in your niche referral marketing package we'll offer folks later, but the appointments are not necessarily about selling, right? They're just about gaining some ground to see where you're both at, correct?
That's exactly right. So I'm not there to sell necessarily. Now, somebody may want my products and services, but I'm looking for strategic alliances. I'm looking for other people that we can refer business back to one another. And so
Absolutely.
Let's say that I go to an event and I'm looking for a sales manager. Or let's say that I go to an event and I'm looking for a sales coach. Now, I'm not a sales coach. I'm a networking coach and a time management coach. So when I go to an event, I put the word out. I'm looking for sales managers, or I'm looking for a sales coach. And so when I find one of those, that's when I say, hey, let's get together and visit next week, and let's talk about how we can help each other. I want to find out more about what you do. I want you to find out more about what I do, and let's see if there's any chemistry here. Let's see if there's any strategic alliance. And from that, we may generate some referrals. They may turn into sales. But when I network at that event, I go there looking for somebody, looking for a particular business partner that I want to make connections with.
And I have heard you stand up before in your elevator pitch and be very specific about what you're looking for as part of that elevator pitch. So that's part of this system, right?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I mean, okay. I told somebody the other day, I think maybe it was you and I that was talking about the elevator pitch. You know, Duck Dynasty. We've heard about Duck Dynasty. They've got this big TV program. Yep. So what do they make? What does Duck Dynasty make? You know?
No, I have no idea.
They make duck calls.
That's right.
Wooden duck calls.
That's right.
Okay, so what happens when you blow a duck call? What happens? What does it do?
It makes a noise. It's supposed to draw ducks.
That's exactly right. And depending on which duck call you use depends on what ducks respond to it. And that's part of the elevator pitch. You know, you're
Meet
calling
the right ducks. Meet the right ducks, right?
Okay. You're calling ducks out of the woods to fly in and land at your pond. So
there you go.
You've got to have the right pitch. You've got to say the right thing. And when you say the right things, the right birds fly your direction.
So in other words, a barking dog will not bring the ducks to your pond, right?
You know, the barking dog's not going to bring the ducks to your pond. That's exactly
all right. Well, let's talk about this other question in this big E. Let's capitalize this E for the word effort. How much of that big E effort does it take before people start seeing measurable return and both these important parts, time and work, Scott?
Yeah, you know, it's called network for a reason. You got to work the system. And, you know, one of the things that I tell my clients is I want you to go to 3 networking events a week. I want you to go to a breakfast, a lunch, and a mixer every week. I want you to go to a breakfast, lunch, and a mixer. And some of those it's the same group that meets at lunch week after week. So, you know, you're going to be interacting with some of the same people. But I want you to go to the 3 different events every week. At every event, I want you to meet 10 people, set 2 appointments. You got to work that. You got to work the system. And if you go to the events and you're visible, you're exposing yourself through your elevator pitch, your marketing minute, and then you're setting up those appointments. It's just the law of reciprocity. If you're out there marketing strategically and you work it, then it's going to start coming back to you.
Yeah, so I'm going to interrupt you one sec, okay? I don't want to break your train of thought. So if you work this with real purpose, go through the system that you're setting up, then you're going to start seeing that measurable return because you're doing it the right way, correct?
That's exactly right. I mean, you follow the system works.
All right. Didn't mean to interrupt your thought. Continue, sir. Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. That's okay. I want you to do that. So that's the whole point. When you work the system, eventually what begins to happen is you're starting to build trust. People get to know you, and as they get to know you, they begin to trust you. And when they begin to trust you, they begin to see and look for referrals for your products or services. And as trust escalates and elevates, then people feel comfortable about recognizing referrals and business that they can send to you. So a lot of what we do is about building trust. And trust doesn't happen in an instant. You know, if I'm a financial advisor and I've got $200,000 or that needs to be brought into management, that's not going to happen over the first time we meet somewhere. That's going to happen over a period of time. If I'm a florist and I need to go buy flowers, well, that may be a little bit different. That doesn't take as much trust. But the point is if you work the system, in just a matter of weeks and months, you will start seeing a return. But you got to work the system. You got to be there, build trust.
And wow, what a benefit to your business and to your self-esteem and everything else that goes with it when you start putting in the effort that works the right way. I just think that's awesome. I just think that's cool. And it's measurable. That's the beauty of it, right?
It is measurable. You know, I love that. It is measurable.
That's a big word. Think about that, right? You can measure your results based on your effort. Wow, what a concept.
Yeah, what a concept. I mean, how many sales managers ask the question, how many calls did you make this week? How many appointments did you go on? How many networking events did you go to? Because they just know the math. They know that if you work the system will work for you. But it's not net laying around. It's not net sitting behind the computer. It's not net doing nothing. You got to get out there and network.
And I would also say, Scott, that within that network, doing it properly, right, which is what your system says. It's one thing just to go and have lots of sales calls and meet your quotas and, but you still got to have the results. So you've got to have some system in place, which we're going to talk about. So next question for you, my friend.
In here about that.
Please do. Thank you.
Several years ago, I heard a guy use the term nasty networker. And a nasty networker is somebody who goes in and is only interested in themselves, who is only trying to make sales. They're not trying to build relationships. There's no giver's gain. There's no two-way street. They're just a nasty networker. Nobody likes to be around a nasty networker.
And everybody knows those rules. You know what I'm saying, Scott? So you know those people right off the bat, right? Drives you crazy.
Yeah, they reek. I mean, they reek.
You can't help it.
Yeah, some people call that commission breath.
Okay, good way to say it. Perfect. I like that. Good word.
So
all right. So what's the secret sauce or the mojo for getting a steady stream of referrals? What are there really secrets to this?
Yeah, I think there are. I think there's some secret sauce and some mojo. Number one, all of us are motivated by referrals. All of us are motivated by referrals. So if I'm trying to build a relationship with somebody professionally so that we can do business together, if I bring something to the table, if I bring a referral or I bring a connection to the table, that's part of the secret mojo. That's part of the secret sauce. I want to make friends, and I want to make business acquaintances and all of that. But the reason I'm doing that is because I'm in business to make money, to make a living. And so I think part of the secret sauce is that giver's gain, and keeping in mind I need to be interested, not interesting.
There you go. Well said. That's a good one to write down, everybody, really. Interested, not interesting. I like it.
That's a writable moment. Be interested,
yes, sir.
not interesting. I got just a minute here. I'm going to tell a really quick story. I went
Please
through a
do.
divorce. I went through a divorce when I was, I don't know, I guess 40-something, 42, 43, something like that. And all of a sudden, I'm back in the dating world. Oh, my God. This was a whole different world. So I'm back up in the dating world. And
right.
so I'm trying to meet some people, meet some ladies. And so, I'm thinking, hey, I'm so interesting. Let me tell you all the things about me that you need to know. And I'm a real catch here. I'm so cool. And nobody would pay attention to me. And I'm going, what is up with that? And I don't remember where it happened or what woke me up.
Right.
But what woke me up was how important it was to be interested.
Yeah.
And so I just changed my tactic, and I began to talk to when I would talk to a lady or a woman, I would be interested in them. Oh, is that a Kate Spade purse? That is so pretty, and I love your shoes, and man, where did you get your hair done? Who did your highlights? And when I became interested, boy, it just turned everything around. And I apply that in the business world, and it is just amazing what happens. And I think, Curdy, that's the big mojo secret sauce, is to be interested.
I do too. I find, Scott, I find that happens on the social side too a lot, that the social networking, that people are always so interested in just talking about their own selves and their own product, right? Instead of being interested in everything else and all their friends and what they're posting. I found if you get interested in everybody else, the other takes care of itself, right?
It does. It does. Just
think about the last, yeah. Think about the last person that came up and showed real interest in you, how that made you feel, right? That's a good way to kind of lock into that. I love that. Be interested, not just about being interesting. That's awesome. That one's down. I just wrote it down. I've heard it before, but I just wrote it down, okay?
And some of us have to work harder at that than others. I have to work harder at that than maybe other people have to.
I think I do too. I know I do. But at least it's a part of becoming good at what we do, right, Scott, is awareness. We become aware of things, and then we start working on those things, correct?
That's exactly right.
All right, so let's get to some final thoughts here. What would you say to someone that's out networking, but they're not getting a whole lot in the way of referrals? What can you do to help them?
Well, it's interesting to me how many people depend on referrals and are out there networking, but they have no formal training. They may have read a book, or they've listened to a tape like this, a recording like this, but honestly, they just have no formal training. And that's what I would say. If you're depending on networking to generate a high percentage of your income, get some formal training, because that training will make all the difference in the world. Now you're not relying on personality or some tip that you picked up somewhere, but you've got somebody who's training you, you've got classroom, you've got hands-on, and so that's what I would say. I would say that if you depend on referrals to generate income for you, get in training, sign up for a class, make a commitment to that. And as you develop your skill set, you're going to develop your income ratio as well.
And Scott, I know there's a staggering statistic out there. Maybe me and you don't have it on top of our heads, but of all the marketing a person can do, all the things they can do, referral marketing is the number one way that we gain customers. Would you agree with that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. The statistic that I use is that referrals close business 86% faster than any other form of advertising.
What does that tell you?
Referrals. Word of mouth referrals close business 86% faster than any other form of advertising. My word, if that's the truth, and it is, then let's learn how to be experts at it.
All right, so that leads me to this. I like what I was going to do on this new coaching show that I've developed is I want you to give me a call of action. I want you to tell folks what you offer, where they can go to find it on your website, and how they can get involved with your niche marketing program. How do they do that, Scott?
Well, thank you, Herdy. There are 3 ways to get involved with me. One way is through one-on-one coaching. And if you're a sales professional or a business owner and you need to learn the skills of networking, strategic alliances, how to network an event, one-on-one coaching, most of that is done over the phone or video conference. That is an ideal way. The second way, locally in Austin, I teach a bi-weekly class every Tuesday morning at the Black Walnut Cafe up in Austin. I teach a class, and it's about a 2-hour class with a group of students, and it's like a mastermind. We go through that together. We talk about where we networked last week, where we're going to network this week, and each week we have a lesson, and we mastermind that lesson together. That is the best way to get that training. It's an awesome class. If it's a company that's looking for a sales team to learn how to do it, we can have that class on site at their company. So that's the second way. The third way is if you go to my website, over to where you can shop, you're going to find that there are 6 videos. There's a package of 6 videos that will teach you the fundamentals and the essentials of networking. Those videos are me live with the slideshow about networking, defining your specialization, your elevator pitch, the venues, where you're going to network, how to network. It's just great information, fundamental information that you can watch again and again so that you can begin to master the skills of being a networker. That's it.
And Scott, what site are those videos on?
So you can go to either, my name, scottcarley.com, or growthdynamic.com, and you'll find all of that on that website.
And I will be linking those on your custom player, Scott. So I want to direct people to a new way to think on Facebook. It's a group. Please go over and join. I will add you. All the archive shows. Of course, Scott, you will get one yourself to do whatever you like with, but I will put this show up there in the next 24 hours for people to re-listen to. We want to thank our listeners tonight. Scott, you've been awesome. Thank you.
Hey,
I really enjoyed asking you these questions, and I think anybody that's been around you and knows you knows that you do an excellent job with this referral niche networking, and it's really beneficial if you're in the Austin area to show up and take it. So I can't say enough about how good you are at training people this. I've seen the results. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Herdy. I appreciate that, and it's networking and hanging out with great professionals like you. That's how these connections get built. So, Herdy, you're a great man, man. I love you and appreciate you.
Well, thank you, Scott. And guys, we're getting ready to disconnect. Scott,